Our talk this morning is based on a poem entitled I Am There, written by James Dillet Freeman. And so I'm going to share a little background knowledge of how James Dillet Freeman was broken open in his experience to arrive at this poem, and then later we'll share the poem with you. You've probably heard it before, right? We've probably shared it before, but maybe I don't see any nods, so maybe you've forgotten it. Well, it's a go-to for me. I read it about 40 years ago, and it's definitely something that hangs up over my computer, as you like to say, and is a go-to whenever I feel that essence of being broken open. So James Dillet Freeman wrote this in 1947 when he heard the words, I am there, in prayer. His wife Catherine was in the hospital having cancer surgery, and he has said that he was in great anguish of spirit. Great anguish of spirit. Indeed, I believe that would be the same as being broken open. Great anguish of spirit. Those moments for us when the only thing we can really do, be due to a situation, is return our attention to spirit. Excuse me. To know that the perfection of life, the wholeness of life, will get us through any and all situations. So if you don't have any right now, if life is going smoothly, then you can apply this to the little everyday things, because as we talked about last week, it's true for both. It's true for the big events, such as hearing that your wife has cancer and is in surgery, and it's true for the little everyday upsets when our electrical circuits get out of alignment and we start to buzz with anxiety, anger, fear, tension, stress, whatever it may be. It's all about remembering to return to that space of oneness. So the doctors gave him the diagnosis that it was terminal cancer, and so he went into prayer. He went off by himself, as Jesus did, and he went into prayer. And his prayer was this: God, if you are there, please allow my Catherine to live. Oh God, where are you? And he said that he heard the words, do you need me? I am there. And he recalled the voice being so clear and so audible that he actually turned around to look to see if there was someone else in the room with him. And there wasn't, but he felt that presence. Well, I call those God moments. Probably some of you do too. So he continued to pray, and he just let the words flow from him. And those were the words to the poem that eventually came about. And as he was in prayer and feeling this presence and this support and this guide and this loving awesomeness, he began to feel hope and comfort. And I don't know about you, but I can relate to that. In those moments where I get pulled out of what I know to be the true way to live, because I know that my consciousness, my thoughts, my thinkings, my feelings are going to lead me into the next moment. Those moments when we step out of that and we feel a sense of, God, where are you? Knowing and having that embedded within you that God, or whatever you choose to call God by, is always present, and it's simply me that has let my attention go off that track. Returning to it is so comforting. And yes, filled with hope, although I know some people don't like that word hope. I do, because for me it's the spark that moves you forward. You have to have a hope, for me, in order to move into the next stages. So the poem that he wrote was actually published the next year in 1948, And the doctors had told James Dillet Freeman that Catherine had just months left to live. And so a few days later, after she was stronger from the surgery, he told her and talked with her. And he recalled taking her hand and actually laying down beside her on the hospital bed. He later wrote that in that moment, they each had explained to each other that they felt a presence in the room. They truly felt as though they were not alone in the room. And I can relate to that, and I hope that all of you can also, because when you feel that presence, by whatever name you call it, when you feel that presence, you know there's something back of you that guides and supports and loves and gives you the energy and the strength to carry on through the hard times. He later took her home, and although she continued to be in much pain, he said that it was her courage that carried them both through this difficult time. He often sat with her and read to her from the words that he heard and wrote in the prayer. Catherine lived for 10 months, and he said that the loss of her was a terrible loss, and at the same time that he had to go through it in the physical realm of humanness, he never lost his faith after he heard that poem. And he said that it felt like God's love was ever present. And you may have heard of this poem because in 1971, it was carried to the moon in Apollo 15, and it was left on the moon for future space exploration. And the man who actually carried it there went to Unity Village and met with James Dillet Freeman. His name was James Irwin. And so we see the connection, we see that idea of being broken open in our humanness to the experiences that we have, and we see that there is always one clear path forward, and that is to steep ourselves in that sense of prayer, in unity and oneness.
In the Bible, in the book of Matthew, the very last thing that Jesus says as he is getting ready to ascend, his soul is getting ready to ascend into heaven, is, I am with you. I am with you always, even unto the end of time. It's the last thing Jesus said before he left this human experience. I am with you always, even until the end of time. I think it's interesting that he says, I am with you, not I will be with you, but I am with you. Understanding the consistency of the now experience, and knowing that there is no really any time or space in God, he chose those words, I am with you always. He gave comfort to his 11 disciples at the time. Give comfort to a lot of Christian people who looked to their teacher and looked for the connection. It's also interesting that Jesus probably knew there was no other place for him to go, since he was in God, and God is all that is, and so therefore he wasn't really going anywhere. He was just ascending into the idea of, or the experience of, heaven outside his human existence. It's true for all of us. If God is all that is, then God is expressing uniquely and beautifully in every single person and every single thing that you bump into. Everyone is my teacher. Some I seek, some I unconsciously attract, and often I learn simply by observing others. Some may completely be unaware that I am learning from them, and it's quite often I may be completely unaware that I am learning from them as well. But I am. If God is all that is, God is each person and thing that I bump into, everything that I see in my environment, everything. I was thinking about that idea of my kids used to play Mario, and they would go around and bounce into and bump into the walls and the bricks and everything, and looking for the coins to pop up and looking for what's going to happen. And I thought there's a potential there for them to see God in everything, to see the good and everything. My idea when I played the game was to get from the beginning to the end successfully. Their idea was to bump into everything and find out what was hidden in all those little places. And so they were picking up coins and getting extra lives. And so if they could get to the end of the game and have 16 extra lives, that was successful to them. To me, just getting from the beginning to the end was important. I wasn't realizing, I wasn't making real in my Mario experience all the good that was hidden around the corners. All the good that was in my environment, I just didn't have the interest or the courage or the insight to look there. They found everything. This is the beginning of time. It has been true that God is all and God is everywhere and God is in every instance and experience that we have in our human experience. I needn't call on God's presence in a time of need because God has always been there all along. You know that poem about the footsteps in the sand, and we look back and ask why are there sometimes only one set of footprints, and it's because God was carrying us along in those times. We were not necessarily aware of the presence, but we were actually being carried through the process all through the entire time. Any sense of need also is a self-imposed illusion because we know we live in an abundant universe. God is all it is. We're immersed constantly in the allness and the wholeness and the beauty of all that God is, and know that God is also all that we are. I started reading a book recently by a woman who has a degree in integrative education. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Integrative education is the study of how things connect. I thought, wow, that's really cool. I didn't even know there was a degree in such a thing. And so I'm going to do some more research and find out what that's all about. But the idea, I've studied integral theory and string theory, and the idea that everything in the universe is connected. But I never really knew there was a study in terms of, it's called integrative education, which we actually study how things are interconnected and realizing that we are connected to everything. So the idea that I'm with you always makes sense. Always has been, always will be, and is right now. When the scientists discovered the Higgs boson particle, the God particle as they called it, it was really fascinating to them because they realized how the universe possibly came into being, and they can actually prove scientifically how things happened at the time of the Big Bang. Now, particle physicists have a definition for this, and it is that the physical proof of an invisible, universe-wide field that gave mass to all matter right after the Big Bang, forcing particles to coalesce into stars, planets, and everything else, including us. Now, it's important for me to point out that that's a particle physics definition, not a quantum physics definition, because quantum physics would not say that there was a Big Bang, because there is no beginning, there is no end in quantum physics. But particle physics science has to have a beginning and an end. So we could say, from a more quantum physics level, our understanding definition of maybe more how we think, it's the physical proof of an invisible universe-wide field that gave mass to all matter right after the first manifestation, forming particles to coalesce into who we are, basically. So it's not coming from a beginning point, but it always has been and is right now. We're part of a cosmic soup. We're part of a quantum field or a realm of infinite possibility, or a spiritual cosmos, or a unified field, or a morphogenic field, whatever you want to call it. You could just call it God. We're part of all that is. Religion literally means reconnection with God. It never moved. God never moved. God never left. But sometimes we need to reconnect in consciousness.
Yes, we do. And we all have the power to do that. So before we share the poem, I want to talk about a couple of the words in it. The title of the poem is I Am There. And for most of the time that I have heard this poem, I changed the words to I am here. So let's talk about why I do that. The dictionary definition for there is in that place or position, at that place or position, or to that place of position. It brings with it the idea of something outside of ourselves. The word here, defined by the dictionary, is in, at, or to this place or position. So now the truth is that it doesn't really matter if you say here or there, because God isn't only in the here or the there, God's in the everywhere, as far as words go for us to say. But I like here because if God is here when we're in those tough times, it means to go within. So let's look at that idea, the inner versus the outer. The inner is a term that generally in our speech covers our spiritual soul or mind aspects, while the outer describes the physical body and the forms around us. And yet, both the inner and the outer is all God. So, what that means for us is this. However we personally interpret that is what we're giving our power to. However we each individually interpret and think of that idea of God or a power, a presence, a universal energy, however we think of that, whether we think out or in, or it all collapses as one, that's where we are in our development of understanding God. And our understanding of God is what brings us to a point of feeling the oneness. So I'm going to share the poem with you, and I invite you to close your eyes if you're so inclined, and to just feel this poem, feel the words to this poem. I am there. Do you need me? I am there. You cannot see me, yet I am the light you see by. You cannot hear me, yet I speak through your voice. You cannot feel me, yet I am the power at work in your hands. I am at work, though you do not understand my ways. I am at work, though you do not recognize my works. I am not strange visions. I am not mysteries. Only in absolute stillness, beyond self, can you know me as I am. And then, but as a feeling and a faith. Yet I am there. Yet I hear, yet I answer. When you need me, I am there. Even if you deny me, I am there. Even when you feel most alone, I am there. Even in your fears, I am there. Even in your pain, I am there. I am there when you pray and when you do not pray. I am in you, and you are in me. Only in your mind can you feel separate from me, for only in your mind are the mists of yours and mine. Yet only with your mind can you know me and experience me. Empty your heart of empty fears. When you get yourself out of the way, I am there. You can of yourself do nothing, but I can do all, and I am in all. Though you may not see the good, good is there, for I am there. I am there because I have to be, because I am. Only in me does the world have meaning. Only out of me does the world take form. Only because of me does the world go forward. I am the law on which the movement of the stars and the growth of living cells are founded. I am the love that is the law's fulfilling. I am assurance. I am peace. I am oneness. I am the law that you can live by. I am the love that you can cling to. I am your assurance. I am your peace. I am one with you. I am. Though you fail to find me, I do not fail you. Though your faith in me is unsure, my faith in you never wavers because I know you, because I love you. Beloved, I am there. Amen. And so as we end today, I have a few questions for you to contemplate. And it's all about where you are on this track of being able to sit in the stillness and the quiet and connect deeply through prayer, meditation, and silence. So the questions. When you talk with God, do you think outside yourself or inside yourself? Do you experience oneness or separation? And in your imagination, is God out there or in here? Do you feel the inner presence? When you talk with God, do you feel the omnipresence of an everywhere power for good, omniscient sense of all-knowing, omnipotent idea of power? God is an ever-present energy source, a divine intelligence, a creative essence. God is wholeness. And through the deepening of our awareness of God, we are able to live as peace, as love, as joy, and as goodness. And so it is.
It is.